Howdy everyone. We all love 85mm lenses, right? Well, today I'm looking at one of 3 which have been officially launched by Sony for their E-mount mirrorless cameras. And this is Sony's 85mm lens lineup. As you can see, they're all very expensive, but today I'm testing out the least expensive one, the Sony FE 85mm f1.8 at $550 or around £550 in the UK. The more expensive Zeiss lens offers slightly nicer build quality and image stabilization in the lens. The f1.4 G Master lens has a brighter maximum aperture, whereas the size and the price of this FE f1.8 lens are a bit more sane than the other 2 options. It doesn't feature image stabilization, but then again, Sony's newer cameras offer in-body image stabilization these days, so that's got you covered. Here is some footage from my A7R II with the lens and without the camera's in-body image stabilization, and here it is turned on. As you can see, the camera's stabilization is really effective if you have a camera with that particular feature. Fast aperture 85mm lenses are very popular. Generally, they tend to be sharp, even the less expensive ones, and their short telephoto focal length and wide maximum apertures lend them to portrait and subject photography, event photography. Also, I've always found 85mm to be a really nice focal length for landscape photography, compressing your image subtly but nicely. Let's look at this lens in particular. It may be Sony's least expensive 85mm option, but actually its build quality is rather lovely. It's made of metal and it feels really solid with a nice brushed painted finish. Many Sony lenses must be switched between manual and autofocus within your camera, but this lens has a dedicated switch and a side button too, which allows you to hold your focus point while shooting in autofocus mode, a feature I sometimes found quite handy. The focus ring turns very smoothly. It's electronically coupled to the lens's focus motor, but it actually works quite responsively. The autofocus motor is not very fast, but it works silently and accurately. Here's how it performs in video shooting mode. A bit slow, really. It does work a bit faster than this when in still shooting mode, though. The lens comes with the normal lens caps and a nice hood. All in all, its build quality is simple, but quite classy. Alright then, image quality. I'll start by testing on a full frame camera, my 42MP Sony A7R II. In the middle of the picture, image quality is sharper than Jordan Peterson. There's just a touch of purple fringing visible on contrasting edges if you look very closely. Over in the corners, image quality remains very sharp. At f2.8, the image is slightly sharper and cleaner in the corners, and back in the middle, no more purple fringing remains. The sharpness remains excellent all the way until you stop the aperture down to about f16, where diffraction is starting to emerge. Overall, the image quality is simply brilliant, especially considering we're working on a 42MP full-frame camera here. Let's try it out on an APS-C camera now, a 24MP Sony A5100. At f1.8, the image remains brilliantly sharp in the middle, although purple fringing is more evident here. The corners of the image are a little soft. At f2.8, there's better clarity in those corners, and back in the middle of the image, colour fringing is reduced. At f4, we see a perfect image in the middle, and the corners are looking quite good. At f5.6, they're sharp, and they stay this sharp down to about f11, where diffraction is starting to kick in. So it's not such an amazing performance when you're using an APS-C camera, but excellent sharpness is still quite possible. The lens's sweet spot is about f5.6 or f8, although it's always nice and sharp in the middle of your images. Let's take a look then at distortion and vignetting on a full-frame camera. No distortion is really visible here, although vignetting is a little strong at f1.8. Stop down to f2.8 or f4 for even illumination across the image frame, or just use in-camera corrections like everyone else. This lens can focus down to about 85cm, which is about average for an 85mm lens, not particularly close. Close-up image quality is a little softer with pronounced purple fringing on contrasting edges, but f2.8 is sharper and cleaner. How does the lens work against bright lights? It's an average performance really, not too bad. Bit of a loss of contrast, but not too much flaring. Still, use the lens hood. Finally, the most important thing on many people's minds, bokeh. Any 85mm f1.8 lens can give you pretty out of focus backgrounds, and in all my sample pictures I found the background blur to be really nice and smooth. Not the smoothest I've ever seen in my life, but really nice and undistracting. All in all, I was hugely impressed with the Sony FE 85mm f1.8. Everything about it is just fantastic, from its build quality to its optics. It's not at its happiest on an APS-C camera, but fix it onto any of Sony's full frame cameras, even a 42 megapixel one, and you'll be flying. It's more expensive than usual for an 85mm f1.8 lens, but it offers a lot more than usual as well, so it only remains for me to say that it definitely comes highly recommended.